Thank you. Thank you for telling everybody. What if I wanted to record in secret? You
Right.
okay. So this week was an interesting case study. It's this concept of Sarah, who moves to New York after having raised in a small town. And the way this describes it, I can only imagine like some small Idaho town where every member or everybody in the town is a member of the church, and so there's probably a bubble involved in this small town. Um, and she served a mission in Uganda and then
Uh-huh.
attended BYU Idaho online. So
Okay.
there's this vision that I have, and I think that vision kind of carries over as we go through the case study. She moves to New York.
Wow.
Starts right. Exactly. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and she starts Elijah. I know that maybe the picture I've drawn up isn't quite something you're quite picturing, but you just have to
Yeah.
understand how Idaho is. Um,
Yeah.
and so she moves to New York for some marketing firm. Um, and it appears that as she's in this firm, she is the only member of the church, just from what I'm gathering. They describe a couple of the people that she's with. Um, she was asked or invited to go to go out with everybody by one of her coworkers and to get drinks. So getting drinks in
Mhm.
New York City, there you go. And she obviously isn't overly comfortable with that because, well, she doesn't drink, interestingly enough. Um, and then there's another coworker, Amara, who believes she's Muslim due to a headscarf that she wears, who wasn't part of this conversation to go get drinks, and she tends to keep to herself and eat by herself. So there's one dynamic, and then you've got Rick. Rick is a cheerful guy, but he has uses choice words in his conversation, and that obviously doesn't sit well with Sarah. Not used to that language, makes her uncomfortable. Um, and then she then met Rita, who Rita got into an apparent argument over the phone with her boyfriend, hangs up the phone upset. Sarah approaches her to say, "Hey, is everything all right?" And Rita responds with, "What is a small town rich girl going to know about how to help me?" And yeah,
Oh,
right. And Sarah quickly apologized and left. And so she's not sure how to deal with that. And then lastly, the team is super cheerful when the boss is around, but when the boss isn't there, they talk behind her back and are negative in their aspect of things. So here's Sarah in this situation, and some of these things make her uncomfortable, obviously. And she's contemplated moving back home and trying to find something else, but through prayer has decided that really going to New York is what she was supposed to do, and so she didn't want to quit her job yet. Um, so she feels like she's capable of providing for this company. She has no authority over anybody, and so she's struggling how to go. Anyway, so there's your scenario, Garrett, on
interesting. Okay.
everything. So a couple of questions that come along is first one is, what can Sarah do to find belonging with a group of people who are different from her? Um, I'll leave that open that up there for you guys to kind of start that conversation. What can Sarah do to find belonging with a group of people who are different from her?
This is very tricky because I mean she tried approaching that lady who had a fight with her boyfriend, and the lady basically turned her down, you know. So I think Sarah was doing all she could to make friends with these people, but everyone is just proving to be hard to get along with, you know. So it's either she has to be by herself all the time, or she has to given to spending time with people who are drinking and people who are using vulgar words. So for this one, I don't know. I don't know what Sarah needs to do. I do not know what Sarah needs to do.
I
What
have
do you think, Garret?
well, I have I'm from Ohio, which is on the other side of the country from Idaho. Um,
Mhm.
where yes, the church started or not started, but had growth in Ohio. Once they left, it definitely didn't maintain that hold by any means. So I have I have a bitterness almost when I read this. And Gary, you're not from Utah, right?
No, I'm from Oklahoma.
Right, that's right, Oklahoma. Your wife's
Yeah.
not from Utah, right? As I sit here and talk bad about
No,
Utah or
no,
Idaho. Okay.
she's from Oregon.
Okay, fair enough. So
Yeah.
I I have to change my thought process because as soon as I read the header of this thing, like I already had a bitterness of what she was gonna do. Because I'm so used to living in the world, if you will, that when I'm reading this scenario, they're like, oh, they invited her to drink. Okay, cool. That happens all the time
Yeah.
here. People swear. Okay, well, I, I don't necessarily have the cleanest mouth in the world, so okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and so these things to me are non-issues. And
Right.
so
Okay.
as I read the scenario, I had to, and I'm not saying non-issues from a standpoint of like I'm going to go drink with everybody, but at the same time, have never had a problem telling anybody, "Hey, I don't drink. I just don't drink. It's not my thing. I don't drink." I
Yeah.
don't even necessarily go into the religious aspect of it. It's not my thing. I don't do it. There's a lot of people who don't drink and aren't members of the church. So I think I think there again, the way this is written or the way my vision is, Sarah has a stigma about people outside of Utah that if she says, "Oh, I don't drink," that they're gonna like get on her about that. Most of the time, they're gonna be like,
Sure.
"Oh, okay, cool, no big deal." Um,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so I think that Sarah needs to kind of step back from herself a little bit and go, you know what? It's okay. I'm different and that's okay to be different. And so go hang out with people. There's nothing wrong with that. Go enjoy a few hours with them after work if that's what they do. Grab a diet coke, you know she drinks that, and
Yeah.
just go with
Right.
life at that point. But that's my crotchetiness of you darn kids not wanting to just
Yeah.
suck it up, but I also recognize that I'm also very insensitive and
No, no, I think, and if I were to, my opinion in there, I just got done and at a work trip where 20 people from all over the nation, Texas, none of them really are LDS members, and I had a blast all week long. And there was a handful of the guys that drank, and they're from Texas, so they would swear and stuff, and I got along fantastic with these people. Now, for Sarah, what she has to remember is the thing here is for someone who is LDS to portray our religion in a way that makes it inviting to the outside world to people, we cannot show precedence or preconception or judgment towards people, which has been the issue with the LDS people in Utah and Idaho is their judging, right?
so judgy.
Mhm.
So if in any form or fashion, if you want to, I don't know, if your goal is to have a missionary moment with these people or anything like that, if you don't, settle in um, and just be a good person to these people and be sociable and be kind as the Savior would, you know, to these people, and you start to remove yourself from this group because they do these things. I understand if the temptation is something that you struggle with or it's hard to do. Sure, understood, no big deal. But if it's not something that you struggle with, go hang out. I agree as well. Like I hung out with these awesome people and they asked me about the LDS religion and why we do things the way we do. Nothing like super missionary by any means, but I shared a few things with them, right? And it's her what she's feeling right now is the first step between you either make a choice that you're going to remove yourself for your own reasons, all good, you're not going to have any relationship with them as far as outside of work stuff, but if you choose to have a little bit of outside of work situation with them, then you have to help them understand that you're not just this rich Mormon girl from Idaho, you know. That's what you got to do, and that'd be my opinion is
Yeah.
get on the horse or get out.
Well,
Either way,
and I think,
you
you
know.
know, when you look at like even the comment that's made about Amara, the one that she believes is Muslim, and how she sits by herself and doesn't do anything, you you don't want to go that route either. To your point, Garrett, like you want to,
Yeah,
if you want to be accepted, then you need to be out there and be accepted. And she needs to. I don't need doesn't need to, but I think one option is going and being friendly with Amara as well, and being friendly to both sides of it, to potentially bring Amara back into the group as well, because I'm sure she has things to contribute too. So it's
sure.
it's finding that time to be friendly with everybody and figuring out how to do that without compromising your standards or your persona. And so I
Yeah.
think that's a good point. So, all right, cool. So the next question says, what doctrine or principles, if understood, could help Sarah understand how to foster a culture of belonging without any formal authority?
Um, I'd say love, like where Christ would just love people for who they are, you know, and go into the dens where people had leprosy and living in sin and doing all these things. That's to the extreme, right? Like we're looking in an extreme form or fashion, but in a very small manner. If we are the disciple, you know, Christ following people that we say we are, in those moments, I would hope that someone's lifestyle would not be the first thing that pops in your mind. That's what my hope would be, right? Is you look at
Yeah.
them as for who they are rather than their actions that they're doing. And as hard as that is to do sometimes, I mean, some people are living pretty rough lives, you know, and it's hard to get along with them. But at the end of the day, you're not going to change their well-being from you're not going to get any justice by I'm not going to hang out with them because they drink. That'll show them, you know, that does no good. So as far as the aspect that I'd throw out there is just love them the best you can. If loving them the best you can is checking in on them once a week, great. If it's going out and actually being, you know, at the bar and grill with them and they're drinking and you're having water, great. um that's my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's not like anyone is going to be forcing her to drink. You know, she's old
Yeah,
enough to say, "I don't drink." And just like what Jared said, she doesn't even have to explain the religious side of it, why she doesn't drink. You know, she might as well just say, "I don't drink." You know, I don't want to drink. So yeah, I think love will do it. Just love them, care for them, and hang out with them. Don't judge them, you know. So just
yeah,
be their friends, and I think she'll be fine.
Yeah, it's the example aspect, right? You know, we do more by showing than by talking. And so, you know, as she goes and she hangs out with him, she's not swearing. She doesn't use that language. She's
Mhm.
not talking about the boss behind their back. She's, you know, all
Yeah,
these things. She doesn't necessarily have to say, "Hey guys, we shouldn't be doing that." No, just don't do that. And then
exactly.
it's interesting how observant people are
Yeah.
to those things. When you don't
Mhm.
drink, they notice you don't drink, and they may ask you
Sure.
about it. And
Yeah.
that's either you don't have to, hey, I just don't, I don't drink, never have, or saying, I don't know how many times I've said, meh, I'm Mormon. It's, we don't drink.
Yeah.
And 99% of people, when you say I'm Mormon, they go, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah,
you guys
you're
don't
cool.
drink.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
it like they know. And people will notice when you don't swear, and they will. Many people will take that into consideration as they can continue their words. So it's definitely an example, love, that kind of thing. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that we actually kind of answered this next question. How can Sarah help influence others to think and act differently when she has no formal authority? And I think it's just kind of what we have just been talking about. The love aspect,
Yeah.
the example aspect. You don't have to be in control to help influence people.
Yeah. And it really does no good for you to try to position yourself in that moment. Like I have a really good buddy that unfortunately we're not as close anymore, who is an extreme narcissist in many ways in his life. And one of those would be in group settings. If someone was doing something that he didn't like, as far as like that type of aspect, he would try to position himself and make it known to you that it was bothering him and offending him. And like some of my music style choice is not what he's all about, like the no swearing in anything and all that. And I'm not that way. I just wasn't raised that way. So I have my music, and he would like turn the radio off in our early friendship whenever that stuff would come on, and I'm like, okay, bro, And eventually, over time, that much stuff happening, even in group settings in front of other people, I was like, hey, you're missing the mark here, man. Like, you and I aren't as alike as I thought we were. I'm going this direction, you're going this direction. And I think she can very easily do that, especially since this comment was made towards her. That what would she know? She could, the door is wide open for her to take that route and to be negative back. And is that who we're supposed to be? That's what she has to ask herself. Is that who we're supposed to be right there?
And with that situation, where what is a small town rich kid going to know how to help me? I think there's definitely, to your point, the door's open. So what can happen is later on, a couple days later, whatever, there is nothing wrong with her going up to Rita and say, hey, I wanted to apologize about the other night. I didn't want to come up. I don't know. I don't know what you're going through. And I definitely didn't know necessarily how to help, but I wanted to be there in case you needed just a vent even. I can
Sure.
listen really well. I have no problem being there to just be an ear, because to your point, I don't know. I don't know what you're going through. And I think there's nothing wrong with telling people, hey, I don't know. I don't know how to help you. I don't know how
Yeah.
to make something better, but I do know that I can listen really, really well. And
Yeah.
nod my head and just be there. And so I think, each situation she has to kind of take with a grain of salt. Looking at the swearing, I have heard of people going up to other people and saying, hey, I'd really appreciate it if you didn't use that kind of language around me. And I'm sure there's a way of doing that in a way that is okay. I've never
Yeah.
been one to understand how to do that, or how to make
Yeah.
that
Without
not,
offending somebody.
without sounding like a, pardon the language, but a douche, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't know how to make it sound in a way that I'm not self-righteous as I say that. And so I think they're just, each situation you have to determine what works and how you can best handle it.
Right.
And the same applies to people who talk about other people behind their backs. I mean, Sarah doesn't have to be like, hey, you don't have to talk about so when you just change the topic, or just don't show any interest when somebody's talking about somebody else. And I'm sure over time people will learn that Sarah doesn't want us to be talking about other people's issues behind it. So yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's all, each situation has to be handled differently, and you have to determine
Definitely.
what works for you.
Yeah.
Last question. If you were in excuse me, if you were in Sarah's shoes, what specific steps would you take? What steps do you think the Savior would counsel her to take? I think that goes just with what we
I think,
talked about.
yeah.
Go on,
Yeah, Jared. Yeah, exactly, man. You nailed it. What you were leading into about the doors open, and you said she could very easily go back and be extremely Christ-like in that situation and just apologize first off and say, I don't know, but I'm here to help when we find out. Or I could, show that service side that us Mormons and LDS people do so well, is like, I don't know what you need, but I'm here. And that is doing your, you know, service to your fellow man the best they can. Is like, a lot of people just need someone they can talk to. And who knows, maybe this person has had some unfortunate run-in with this LDS or Mormon member that we're talking about that was extremely standoffish to her and offended her greatly. And now she wants nothing to do with any one of this. And that's where she got that from.
Yeah.
And so my first action would be going to that young lady and saying, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to overstep or do anything to make you think that I was the all-knowing, if you will, but I'm just here and I would love to be a friend to you. And if you need a friend, then I'm here.
Yeah.
And that's where I would first step. And then to change that office space mentality, it's totally okay when someone's throwing out negative comments. What I found through my sales career and stuff, when people have been talking bad about a team leader or something like that, it's perfect in a not offensive way when everyone's talking about that to just throw out a compliment about that person. Be like, yeah, I mean, all that's really going on, but at the end of the day, they're still a really great leader. Like, they're still a really great boss, these things. And you do that enough and it starts to change the tone without saying, hey, don't talk bad and put yourself in a bad position there with everybody.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the two main things I would do there.
And depending upon how, I guess this may not work in this situation because she's fairly new to the company, but I found out I can be, jokishly say something like, okay, now say two nice things about them, like something like that. You're like, come on, guys, we can do better than this. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but that is very much a case by case scenario, and that may not work in this one because of how new she is. But definitely, take that opportunity to try to help people see that either A, that's not how you want to discuss the situation, or B, we all have faults. And I've done that too. Now that I say that, I've done that too, where I've gone, yeah, I suck at that too. Or that's a weakness I have as well, or something to that effect, and it helps as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's great ways to just kind of take the attention off that person, if you will, and just say, you know what? Yeah, maybe they are terrible at responding to emails or something like that, but also at least they sign our paychecks, right?
Never messed up my time card yet, so
yeah, exactly. Right.
But
so yeah.
All right. Well, there's our mini case study, gentlemen. Good time.
Well, I sure appreciate you guys working with me this week, and
I'm sorry you didn't
we'll
reach out sooner. I should have reached out sooner.
No.
Does next week around 1:00 Eastern work for you guys? What time is it there, Elijah?
8 p.m. Now it's 10:52 p.m.
Oh, that's not That's not
10:50
terrible. That's not terrible. We're not keeping you
Yeah.
too late. You only have to get up for church in the morning. No big deal.
Uh,
I know.
Right.
But all right.
I'd be totally happy to be the team leader next week, and
Okay.
I'll send the link out. Okay.
Yeah, 1:00 then. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I will get you the link for this this chat. And we will be good to go. All right.
Sounds good, gentlemen. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a good night, Elijah.
Thank you for making
You
it
too.
work, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem, buddy. No problem.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.